Hey guys, DizzyPW here with the Snail Games booth covering one of our most anticipated games of the show, King of Wushu, and after that we're going to follow up and do Age of Wushu Dynasty, the mobile port. And right here we've got one of the big shots in the North American office for Snail Games to give us a rundown of King of Wushu.
Hey guys, I'm Kevin Doyle, Community Manager and Head Spokesperson for Snail at E3. So like he said, we're going to be talking about King of Wushu. So King of Wushu is a Kung Fu themed 3D action MOBA. So it's built around the same basic IP as one of our other huge titles, which will be showing the mobile port, if you mentioned already, Age of Wushu. And so we can kind of just jump right in. Actually, maybe take a step back, Jonathan. So the game, as I said, is a MOBA, so there's a bunch of different, you want to go to Heroes? Sorry, we're just going to get this set up. So the game is a MOBA. There's a bunch of different heroes that all draw from the same traditional martial arts themes that the original Age of Wushu did. So we've got people like the Wulin, the Shaolin monks, the Wudang. Some characters are kind of more evil, some kinds of characters are better, and they all have their own kind of unique backstory that fits into the lore in which they're all fighting to find this epic martial arts tome called the Nine Yang Tome, which basically gives them the power over everybody else. And so that's sort of the context in which all these characters that you can choose from are fighting on the battlefield to be the ultimate king of the Wushu world.
So quick question, the 4 tabs at the top, are these representative of different archetypes in the game?
Yeah, basically the furthest one to the left is just all the characters, and then generally the different characters fit into 3 classes. So there's more tankier ones who have high damage, resistance, and high health and sustainability. There's the kind of more DPS or attack-oriented ones who have really strong attacks. And then there's the more support types who have things like buffs, debuffs, things that make their team work better as a unit. So these are kind of the 3 types that are available, and at the moment there are 15 that we can choose from. Each one is very unique, so like I said before, some come from more used, like for example this guy on the far left, Fang, he uses poison, so a lot of his skills are poison based. Other ones are more physical and melee versus spiritual and ranged attack. So for example, if we just look at him, you can see every character has 5 basic skills. 1 is a passive, and then 4 are active that you can use in different ways, and each one kind of you activate it in a different way on the field. Yeah, so that's kind of just the basic of that.
So you don't often see flying skill as a stat in a MOBA.
No, definitely not, but that's one of the things that we're adding. We're trying to make some new headway into the MOBA genre, and we're adding some new things in that fit into our past experience with both MMOs and also generally martial arts games. So flying skills are a big part of that. There's also, we'll touch on it a little bit later, there's kind of player progression systems that are built around traditional Chinese medicine called meridians, which we got to look at for just a second before. And that's something that we're trying to add in to make the game have kind of more of a longevity feel of it. You kind of develop an attachment to your character, which is something you don't necessarily see in MOBAs. So we're trying to find a way to kind of mix our MMO experience with our MOBA experience.
Sounds exciting. All right, let's check it out.
So let's just jump right in. We can just get into a battle. So at the moment, there's only 2 maps available. There's the main 5 versus 5 map, and then there's also a tutorial map, which we're not going to bother with right now. And generally, you can either queue up for gameplay that would result in getting kind of in-game currencies and experience for, like I said, leveling up your character, or you can create your own lobby, which for these purposes we're going to do, and we're just going to play against a bunch of AI characters. So.
And does it have the typical MOBA setting of taking out the enemy's base, or what is the victory condition you're going for?
At the moment, the current version that we have has, for 5v5, it's your typical 3 lanes, jungle, take out the base, but we obviously have plans also in the future to kind of come up with newer and more interesting ways to play off of that mechanic and ways that kind of play into what we're trying to develop with the storyline and the different types of characters. So right on, so we'll just jump right in. 20 seconds of, this is what you kind of have to expect, right?
So how long has this been in development?
It started, I believe, in 2012. And so it's using actually a lot of the same developers and a lot of the same art. Like a lot of our artist department from Age of Wushu also were moved over to use for this project. It's actually currently out in what we call like the early edition in China. So it's actually already out for PS4 and has plans for multi-platform release in the future for Xbox One and PC and even a mobile version of the game. And so then now we're just bringing it over to the US, and it's more or less pegged for later this year or early 2016. So.
Is there going to be any tie-ins with Age of Wushu in terms of cross content? Maybe like if you do something in Age of Wushu, it happens in this game?
Well, that's all part of like trying to develop this family of games that we've got going, because we've got Age of Wushu Dynasty, King of Wushu. For the most part, the biggest crossover is the similarity or the mutual roots of a lot of the characters. So, for example, this guy we have as a swordsman. He's part of the Wudang, which is one of the well-known martial arts schools from the original Age of Wushu. But now that we're in the game, you can see it's mini map on the side. It's a 3-lane battle map with jungles in between, towers that you're trying to push, 5-on-5. Ultimately, the goal is to push your enemy all the way to the other side. You have to upgrade your skills manually. Each time you level up, you can then upgrade or acquire a skill. You get experience from killing enemies. You get gold. You buy stuff in the shop. So you can see, generally there's 2 different types of damage. So there's internal or spiritual damage, and then there's external or more physical damage. And there's a lot of other specific stats like armor piercing and things like that. So it's all about, as you fight along throughout the battle, figuring out how to best meet what your character needs to do, what your enemies' weaknesses are, and pushing to the other side. So.
Can you give us a quick overview on these stats? A lot of them are going to be pretty new to typical MOBA players. Brutality, toughness.
Yeah. So toughness is sort of like a armor, like a resistance trait. Swiftness is just your speed. Deftness is your attack speed. Or actually, I'm sorry, I'm trying to remember these all myself. Deftness is a dodge trait. Intensity is your attack speed. Crit rate is what you expect it to be. And then your attack, ultimately attack is dictated by things like strength, and then your actual damage would be dealt with your attack and your crit rate. Toughness and fortitude deal with your physical and magical or spiritual damage. Swiftness is just your speed. And brutality is basically armor piercing. So it's how much of the armor that you get through.
It looks like you get 6 item slots plus, or 6 like equipment slots plus 2 item slots.
Yeah, you get. So there's a couple different consumables like you can see, and right now since it's on the PlayStation, it's set where the D-pad is how you use those 2 consumables. The other items just dictate your traits, so you get higher of your different stats. And then the way you attack is you use the right trigger is just your basic attack. So John could just like attack something, hopefully. So you just use a basic attack. It actually can has a combo move, so you can get up to 3 or 4 combo moves depending on the character. And then also when you use your skills, which he currently has 1 available, you would press that, and that would open up sort of a viewer of what your skill is going to be effective at, and then you would just use the attack button again to execute it.
And what's your take on minions? Do they start strong in this and then get weaker over time, or do the minions gain new powers or new types of minions as matches go on?
At the moment, they basically, they are very strong when you first start out because you're weak. As time goes by, they become easier to kill. There also are a bunch of different types. So there's archers, there's regular swordsmen, there's guys who carry kind of big, you could call it like a big flail, like a big round spiked ball on the end of a stick. So there are different types with different damage types. So obviously the flail one is more of a tanky one. The swordsman is kind of a middle one, and the ranged is an archer. And then also, if you destroy the furthest most tower, the one that's right on the edge of their base, which is also their strongest tower, that would result in those minions then becoming stronger as they then enter the base and become kind of helping you assault the goal, which is kind of a traditional Chinese bell with a wizard on top who casts spells to harm you. So.
That's pretty sweet. Do you have any type of lore storyline you're tying into the game?
Yeah, it's set in the late Ming Dynasty, or sorry, that's not true. It's in the early Ming Dynasty, just after the founding of a new dynasty, and so there's a lot of political intrigue where an emperor dies and another one takes the throne, and a lot of people are kind of curious about, how did he become the emperor? So ultimately, there's different factions, like people who are in support of a different emperor. There are the traditional martial arts masters who kind of have their own thing. They just want to find, the best manuals and the best skills and to grow their own studentship. And then there's some other people like the desert outcasts and some secret military things going on that all kind of interplay. And those are the basis of all the different characters that you can play as. And right now, like I said, there's 15 available. There's going to be more added later. And depending on what faction or what school or group these characters come from actually then dictates, it's built into the design of the game. So many of the characters will have somebody that they're really strong against or really weak against, or somebody that they're really good at playing with in terms of as a team. And those are based off of what factions they come from. And one of the things we're looking to develop in the future is kind of building on that faction play. Like, developing maybe even like team skills and stuff like that built into that mechanic.
Are you guys pushing more for having a dedicated jungler, or what factor does the jungle play into a typical match?
Well, I mean, that really boils down to how people play. I mean, there's obviously different buffs you can get in the jungle, so it's not so much necessarily that there's a designated strategy where you have a jungler or you don't have a jungler. It's more open to how people want to play it.
How have the Chinese been playing it in the test so far?
I guess you could say they have all their own different strategies. I don't know.
Still too early on. That's my favorite time in a MOBA is when no one has any idea what they're doing and you never know what's going to happen.
Yeah, absolutely.
And so what kind of buffs can they get from the jungle? Oh, these are really cool looking mobs.
Yeah, so there's certain ones that are just basically experience mobs. Those are kind of weaker. Those are the green ones. Then there's slightly stronger mobs that are blue, and those will give you mana. There's also a mobs that will give you an attack buff. Those are red. And then there's, you can see on the mini-map, there's two really powerful kind of jungle bosses. One on the right, which will give you gold, and then one on the left that will give you a really strong attack. I think it gives you an attack cooldown and an attack buff, so it just makes you generally a lot stronger. And it also gives that to people next to you, too.
What is your take on the currency gaining to buy equipment during a match? Do you reward last hitting? Is there range limits on the minions you kill so that you can get experience as support?
I guess I believe that at the moment it's a mixture of getting the last hit and also communally. So obviously, if your teammates are killing people, killing enemies, or killing mobs, you also get experience and get gold. But at the same time, it also is tied into if you get the last hit, you get the kill, you get a lot more experience, you get a lot more gold. So yeah, I guess that's more or less the way it works.
And then okay.
Yeah. So I guess one thing we could probably do just for fun, because we have it available, if John doesn't die right now, is we have the GM command, so we could just level him up, and we could show you just going into the base because he has that potential available. All right, are you safe now? There you go.
What is the max level you can reach in a match?
18. So once you get to 18, you then have because you have to manually upgrade all your skills. So you have to kind of choose which skills are most important early on. So we'll just get him to level 18. We can show off all the different skills and also just destroy everybody in the match.
And what stats tend to grow as you're leveling up passively? Do you get faster as the match goes on, or is that all from the equipment you buy?
Generally, it's just strength and damage essentially, and then also your HP. I don't believe that. I think all the other stats are basically just from the equipment you get. So, is it not working? Oh, okay, well, never mind then.
Oh,
okay,
bummer.
that's okay. Yeah, so this is King of Wushu in a nutshell, gameplay-wise.
Oh, fantastic. Thanks for the overview. We'll have to head out and get our hands-on time to really dive into this one.
Yeah, definitely.
Thanks for the time.
No problem.